Hey guys, so hopefully you've read through the email before you listen to this, before you watch this, because this video I'm going to sort of be reiterating a lot of what I said in the email, but there's a few points that I really wanted to stress. And first and foremost is that when we're working with the energy of the sacral chakra and the third eye, we're working with very taboo energies. These points are where a lot of triggers happen on the planet, and it's because they're directly connected to our deepest self, our deepest part of what we are as creators, which is our desire, and also our creative abilities. And those two things are the very things that were wounded in the lack matrix. Those are the things that we have all this collective programming around, and we try to police each other, at least in the past, our historical past. We've tried to police each other into remaining in these lack systems. And it's because we are powerful creators. Each individual is powerful. And if we believe that we're powerless, if we feel powerless, then someone else can't be powerful. Because if they're powerful, then they're a threat to us. So the whole idea of the collective hive mind, or the collective mind matrix, is to keep everyone the same. So that we don't have to, if you think about it, whatever is controlling the lack matrix, so it doesn't have to face the fact that it actually doesn't have power. So the only thing that gives the lack matrix power, which is the beliefs, is our believing in them, which in and of itself shows how powerful our beliefs are. Our beliefs literally create our reality. And so I said in the email how the lack matrix, or the war paradigm, is really the survival of the fittest. And it's when we became disconnected from what we are and from our connection to all things, our connection to nature and our connection to each other, basically our trust of what we are, when we started becoming suspicious of our power. And there's a whole bunch we could say about that, but for the sake of this detox, because remember, for those of you taking the Spell of Astronomical Abundance course, we're going to be moving into the chakra cleanse next, so we're going to go a lot deeper into this information about the chakras. But for the sake of the 11-day detox, what I really just want you to start thinking about is the connection between your desire and your creation. Now, if you were to flip your body upside down, your third eye is exactly where your sacral chakra is exactly where your third eye would be, and vice versa. So they mirror each other. And the third eye is our ability to see through the illusion of lack. Lack is basically the matrix that we've created that we all look at and believe is real. It is ultimately an illusion because, as we know, the universe is infinite. Energy is infinite. It never actually ends. It can't actually be destroyed. It just changes form. And that is what we essentially are made of. We are made of energy. So we know that we are eternal in and of our energy field. And we know that there is an infinite amount of perspectives to have. And we know that we can explore perspectives and change our brain literally, and change our lives and change our bodies. We can overcome anything. And there is a lot of collective programming around the third eye, particularly, that comes from a religious background, or sometimes just superstition in and of itself. Some of this is medieval, but the fear programs around the third eye is, don't open your third eye, because if you do, you're opening a door to things that you don't understand, and it can hurt you. And the truth is, that is true. If you don't understand what you're actually looking at, if you don't have the ability to discern, opening your third eye could scare the shit out of you, because what you're doing is seeing past the illusion into the causality realm, into the realm of thought forms. And remember, everything exists. So every thought that I've ever thought exists on some level. And the more that I've thought it, the more form it takes. And it may not be manifested into a physical form, but it exists and it vibrates in the astral realm. And there are lower astral dimensions and higher astral dimensions. And again, that's not really a hierarchy as much as it is the quality of the thought itself. Was it based in fear? Was it based in survival? Then it's a lower astral form. Is it Is it coming from love? Is it coming from source? Is it coming from our sense of wholeness? Then the vibration is going to be higher, and the effect is totally different. It's the different effect of those vibrations are different on our body. It's different on our whole expression, and it makes us a match to a different thing. So if we are in a really bad mood and we're thinking a lot of low vibrational thoughts, we are a match to lower vibrational thought forms. And if we were to open our third eye, and see the reality of those thoughts, it would look pretty scary. And so there's a certain survival mechanism in closing your third eye, because you don't have to look at the reality. It's kind of similar to going la 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 la. It doesn't exist, because then you don't have to deal with it. But it doesn't mean it still doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean that it's not influencing you. All it means is you have decided to ignore it. And so it's influencing you in ways that you don't even realize. So the trick to opening the third eye is having discernment. And really the entire crux of what I teach about the lack matrix and the abundance matrix and having discernment and how our energy works and what the purpose is of being a creator is all about being able to develop discernment and see through the lies. If you understand how it all works, you don't have to be fearful, because you can understand, oh, that's a thought form. It's a low vibrational thought form. It's not me. It has no power over me, but I can give it power. I can imbue it with power and even give it power over me if I believe that it has power, or if I focus on it, if I give it my energy. We are the source of the energy. The thought forms, or demons and thought forms, same thing, take on the expression that we give them. They take on the life form that we give them. And so when we start really understanding that, pretty soon it's not about fear at all anymore. It really becomes about being a creator and having discernment and really thinking, goes back to what we talked about in yesterday's video, which is having preferences and desires and knowing that it's safe to move towards your desires and that it's okay to feel better and it's okay to meet your needs. And when you do that, your vibration raises, because it's your natural instinct, it's your natural nature to go towards what feels better. So you're not going to create, the whole fear tactic of you're going to do something bad and humans are sinful and they just want bad things and they crave bad things, it's actually could not be further from the truth. We want to feel whole. We want to feel loved. We want to feel connected. We don't want to be hateful. We don't want to feel hateful, but we do those things when we feel powerless and when we can't get our needs met. All the lower vibrational things we do because our needs are not met. The dark, shadowy stuff happens because needs have not been met. Beliefs haven't been corrected. Wounds haven't been healed. And so we have all this unhealed, unprocessed emotional energy and trauma that's stagnant within our electromagnetic field. And our inner being is constantly trying to feel better, constantly trying to get those needs met. But then we have this lack programming on top of it that tells us, you're bad if you care about how you feel. You shouldn't pay attention to your emotions. Your emotions are bad. Or you're bad for meeting your needs. Or you're bad for having a preference. Or you're bad for wanting to understand how reality works. That's evil. That's you're messing with something you shouldn't mess with. Do you see how it works? Do you see how fear programming keeps us all like, oh no, don't do that? And it's not just, I don't even purely think it's an evil agenda. There's a lot of darkness and there certainly is a lot of evil in the world. But all of that has been created from a wound of lack. And it gets darker and darker and darker the more we don't meet the need. And so if I could stress anything about this investment that you've made in yourself, it's that, remember how I've talked a lot about in my videos, how the whole function of business and what fuels the planet in terms of money and exchange and energy is to meet a need, to see a problem and meet a need. That's how innovation happens. Well, as people wake up more and more, we are starting to collectively see that the greatest need on the planet is for healing. And remember, the matrix itself doesn't care what you ask for. It doesn't have an opinion. It just gives you what you ask for. So the collective asking right now is for healing and it's for restoration. And therefore, that's why people like you are being woken up and called out, because you have an ability to not only hold space for healing, but to have tremendous insight into pain, because you've been through a lot of pain. And as you overcome your pain, you are a great asset to the asking. We are literally being called for right now. And that's why not only should there be no shame or no guilt in meeting your needs, it's as if the universe gave you a task and it's asking you, okay, what do you need in order to do it? Because the collective asking is for healing. And so the universe is just going to give us whatever we need to heal, to allow that restoration to happen. The universe is for your healing. And when I say the universe, I'm really referring to the malleable matrix outside of us. But source, when I say source, I'm talking about the light within. Whatever that most beautiful of mysteries is, we call it God. We call it, I don't know, a million different things. It has a million different names, but it is the source of all life. And it is personal. It's personal because we're experiencing it personally. Right now, I'm experiencing it personally through this being and through this genetic code and through this experience. And my conscious awareness of that makes me a steward over this body. And the fact that I have experienced enough to know that pain is detrimental if it's not healed, if the needs aren't met. It's not that contrast is wrong, but contrast that never, like needs that are created that never get met, cause major issues, major trauma on the planet, major. And so the way that this is connected to specifically the sacral chakra, we talked about the third eye a little bit, but the sacral chakra is our connection to our desire and our connection to our sexuality, our creativity, and our giving and receiving. So we talked about the collective programming around the third eye, which is, you're going to open a door that's bad. It's just fear of the unknown, ultimately what it is, but it's also fear of our creative power and fear that you're going to find out the truth if you see through the matrix. The sacral chakra, on the other hand, is the source of our creative power, especially as women. And I'm not saying women are more powerful than men, but I'm saying you, by your very biology, are connected to creation itself. Your cycle reflects the cycles of the earth. Your womb literally reflects the womb of creation. We are the givers of life. And it's such a metaphor for, in order for life to happen, we have to receive pleasure. We have to receive, and in pleasure and pain, there's a really fine line between pleasure and pain. Sex can be rape or it can be an act of complete ecstasy. And the difference between the two is consent, and it's trust, and it's having a voice, being able to say what you want and what you don't want. Do you see the perfect analogy that sex is for life? And many of us go around experiencing our lives as if we're being raped, as if we have no ability to say what our needs are, what our preferences are, what we like, what we don't like. We just have to take it. We just have to take life as what it is, and we have to shut up and bear it. It is essentially a rape energy, and that comes from a feeling of being incredibly powerless. And the energy of the mind, someone once corrected me and said you should say the brain, not the mind. But when the brain takes over and the program itself is in charge, it's ultimately insecure in and of itself because it cannot discern. And so really, it's important. I know this is sort of an extreme example that I'm talking about, but it is what happens when the mind is in control, when it's just pure logic, like, oh, you just do this. And we're just purely logically exploring life rather than emotionally exploring life, emotionally and logically. Because the logic is part of what we are as well. It's part of our programming. It's part of our technology, really. But really, in order for life to start feeling like heaven on earth, we have got to be in touch with our desires and our creative desires. Because if we don't feel like we want to make love to life, that we want to receive and we want to explore and we want to experience and we want to feel, then we are living like dutiful robots. And we're just following the program and doing what we're told to do, and it's the whole shut up and just live it because this is what you have to do, is what everyone has to do. It's actually just not true. It's a creative program, or it's a program in lack. It's a program that was created in lack. And so I want you to really today start exploring, what are your desires and how do you feel about your desires? And when I say desire, I'm not just talking about sexual desire. Like, the physical desires are merely a reflection of a deeper desire. They're a reflection of a deeper desire for connection. Because as I said yesterday, we are relational at our core, and life is meant to feel like it's our lover, not our enemy, not our tyrant, not our boss. We're not subject to it. We are here to experience it. Just like if you were to make love to someone, you're experiencing them on the deepest, most vulnerable levels. And it requires a lot of vulnerability to trust someone enough to let them in that deeply, to let them see all that part of you and feel into your preferences and feel into the things that make you come alive and be turned on inside. It's the perfect analogy for life. And so I want you to just think about, what are my desires? How do I feel about my desires? What are the beliefs and programs I have about my desires? And what do I feel about the third eye? Like, what do I feel about being able to tune in and see beyond the physical reality? Do you have a program that what you see is the only thing that's real? And a lot of us, especially as empaths or intuitives, we know that what we see is not what's just real, because we feel so palpably, and feelings are way more real than anything else. They're the most palpable thing, even though they may not be solid. But often we discount our feelings so much because we have that program so deeply that feelings are superfluous, that they don't matter, that we don't take them seriously. And so we don't include them in our navigation. We don't include them in our creative process. And when I say navigation, it's not just about, oh, let me get through this maze and get out of here as fast as I can so I don't get hurt. It's about, how can I'm here to experience life. I'm here to create. I'm here to express this soul. I'm here to express this particular DNA line as well, and my creative expression of that DNA. And you have so much creative license when it comes to your own energy and your own expression and your own signature. But we often just don't even take any of that into consideration because we have become creatures of duty, and we truly believe we're a slave to the matrix. And so we dismiss what our intuition is. We dismiss what we know is actually going on, or we don't even tune in because we don't want to see it, because it feels scary to all of a sudden have your reality unravel and realize that the ego that's been created in the victim, aggressor, savior paradigm, when you wake up and you fully open your third eye, you can no longer identify in one of those roles, which when we're in the lack matrix, that's what we primarily do. We primarily identify as a victim, as an aggressor, or as the hero or the savior. And we vacillate between all of those roles, but usually our ego likes to really take on one of those identities. And so to see through that, to see through the reality, it means taking responsibility and realizing I have way more power than I've ever even known. And that can feel scary. And that's also what tends to keep fueling that whole la 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 la. Because the ego's like, no, I'm a victim, or no, I'm the bad guy, or no, I'm the hero and the savior, and I can't possibly also be the other two roles. I can't possibly also, in my energy, be contributing to those roles. Does that make sense? In my beliefs, in my programming. So hopefully this makes sense to you. I want you to just really explore how you feel about these things. And if you have negative programming, which I'm assuming most of us do because we've been raised in lack, ask yourself, just like we've been doing with this whole thing, when was the first time I ever felt this way? What are the experiences that sort of shaped your beliefs about your desires and your pleasure and your sexuality and receiving? And what are the beliefs you have about discernment and about truly thinking differently than other people and seeing through the illusion and using your inner eye? What beliefs do you have around that? Or even if you just feel into it, how do you feel about it? Do you feel scared? Is there a hesitancy? What comes up for you as you explore this energy between here? Because this energy between these two things truly reflect our creative abilities, our ability as creators. And like I said, being a creator, being a god, is ultimately being in touch with your sexuality, truly in touch with your pleasure, truly in touch with your joy. pleasure, joy, ecstasy, all those higher vibrations, they're part of heaven. It's not part of hell. Sex. It's odd that sex has been sort of associated with lower dimensions, and it's simply because of the lack programming and of being enslaved and feeling raped by that enslavement. But truthfully, that same energy can be transmuted to some of the highest vibrational energies on the planet. And that's why it's important that if we want to bring restoration to this planet, we get in touch with our desires and we get in touch with our sexuality, and we become creatures of pleasure and desire and discernment and love, and infuse those things together. That sexuality and spirituality are not mutually exclusive. They are one and the same, and they reflect each other beautifully. So yeah, I'd love to hear your experiences for those of you in the Facebook groups. I'd love to hear what you feel about all of this, what you discovered as you asked questions. And then for those of you in the Spell of Astronomical Abundance class, our first live is going to be this Saturday, I think it's the 12th, at 11:11 a.m. in the Facebook group. For those of you who are just taking the 11-day emotional detox, there's been a little bit of confusion, because when I say the Spell of Astronomical Abundance, there's been confusion about who's in what. The people who are in the Spell of Astronomical Abundance are the people who paid $599, and they're going through all 4 of my classes. So if you know who you are if you did that. So, all right, much love, you guys. I hope you're doing well.